Howdy, Bob Brown again. There's been a photo that's been put on the Facebook talking about, is this a foul, elbow foul, and I thought I'd make a little video. And I think I'll try to find the picture and show you the one that caused it. But basically, you know, the guy's like this with his elbow up in the air and he's pinning the person. And his elbow is, you know, way up, you know, it's high. And his tricep or this part of his arm is touching the pad. And some people are like, that's clearly a foul or not a foul or whatever. And so again, this is not my opinion. This is just what the rule actually is, not whether I like the rule or not. Basically, if the tip of your elbow is still within the circumference of the pad and either your forearm or your tricep or part of the arm is touching, then that is still a legal position. So for example, let's say I'm like this and I hit the guy over and then rock crazy back, and you can see my elbow is up off the pad. My tricep is touching the pad. And so that would be considered fine. Here's how the rule came into existence in the first place, which might, and then it went crazy. So there was a time we had straight across pads, okay? And there were guys who literally had forearms so big that when they would go to pin, they would end up sitting on the meat of their forearm and the tip of their elbow would come off of the pad. And people would complain, well, his elbow's up. Well, his elbow had to come up because he was literally riding on the meat of his forearm to pin someone. And that was determined to be okay. That was the original reason for the rule. And what had happened is people would get up on the meat part of their pad, but then their elbow would slide off the side or off the front or off the back. And that was a foul because, again, the elbow went outside the perimeter. Well, then the rule over time started to get morphed into, before the whole King's move thing. Okay, so let's forget the King's move for a second. If I had the ability to just back pressure someone so hard that I ended up like this and my elbow came up, they considered that okay. Now the reality is the only way my elbow is going to come up is this guy must have a really long arm and I'm picking his elbow up off the pad. And so they determined that to be okay. But, you know, with the whole King's move, or I shouldn't say King's move because this really wasn't King's move related, it's finishing. If I could take your hand and go like this and my forearm got in the way and was picking my elbow up and we determined that to be okay, well then what's the problem where I've pulled you across and I've come down and I've pulled you so far that now I'm up on the inside of my bicep and the elbow's up, which means the opponent is way on the front. It went into doing that. And that's what we just saw in this picture. Is it the correct call? Or is it a proper rule? Should the rule be changed? I don't know, maybe. As long as, you know, it's being used properly. Like if I have the strength to pull you over and I'm coming down and I have the strength to just bring you down like this, well, then I say it's probably okay. Of course, we could have, you know, like Todd Hutchins said, no shoulders below the table, period, anywhere, you know, even in a traditional, you know, move, a traditional top roll move, if my shoulder goes below, call it a foul. I mean, We could change the rule to that, but you know, you'd have to have all the organizations change the rules. But for this, just so people understand, as long as your forearm or your arm is touching the pad and your elbow is still within the circumference of the pad, technically, according to the WAF, that is allowable. You can compete like that. So there you have it. If you have any questions, fire away.